Right now, the only thing Nintendo fans are talking about is the Switch 2 now that it's been officially released. And we already knew that this was going to be a pretty big year for Nintendo. But now that we have more or less an idea of when the Switch 2 release date is, we can start filling in some blanks in our head about when we think certain software will be released for the Switch 2. However, I think it's important to still remember the Switch 1 is going to have plenty of support probably for years down the line. Yeah, it might be mostly ports and remasters, but still quality games for the Switch 1 audience. So now that we have somewhat of a roadmap for the Switch 2, let's predict the upcoming year for Nintendo in terms of their Switch 1 hardware. We're going to go through the next 12 months, month by month prediction style. And remember, at the time of recording, it's a completely blank slate for us, more or less. So I have no idea what Nintendo's going to actually do, but this is what they should do. February. I'm predicting that the rumored Switch 1 Direct is going to be February 6th, and on that day they're going to shadow drop Metroid Prime 2 and possibly 3 remastered. Now, as I've talked about in other videos, I hope it's a true remaster like we did with Prime 1, but it might just be HD ports. Either way, it will be great to have these games, and I think they're going to shadow drop it similar to how they did Prime 1 with a physical release later down the line. Then later in the month, we'll see the release of Hotel Dusk and its sequel game in a new remastered compilation. I think Nintendo wants to keep the visual novel audience still somewhat engaged in the future, so titles like these I think will always have some sort of a foothold in the Nintendo ecosystem. And I just feel like announcing it with giving it just a couple weeks lead up to release, similar to what they did with Emil, I think it makes sense. March. So remember, March 10th is Mario Day. I don't think we're going to get any major announcements, but lots of teases for things to show up in later directs. I do think Mario Day is going to release 3 bits of digital software. Number 1 is a Dr. Mario World port to Switch that might include some Battle Royale elements. Let's just call it Dr. Mario 99. I'm also really hoping they're going to release some DLC for Super Mario Party Jamboree. Hopefully add some more elements for customizable rules and maybe a new board. That'd be nice. I've always been hoping for Chilly Waters to return, but the biggest piece of software for Mario Day is going to be the re-release of Super Mario 3D All-Stars Collection. And this time it'll include Super Mario Galaxy 2 as a free download for people with the NSO expansion pass. And yes, we'll also see these hitting store shelves later down the line, but instead of the 3 games, it'll be all 4 games bundled. Like, I don't think they can sell just the 3 games at full price. 4 games at $60, I can picture it. Those who already have the original release with the 3 games can either pay a little extra for Mario Galaxy 2 or get it free with the expansion pass. Makes sense to me. And then, as we know, March 20th is going to be Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, and I'm sure that's going to be showcased plenty during the Switch 2 Direct, showing off higher graphic capabilities and such. April. Speaking of the Switch 2 Direct, here we go, April 2nd. And this video isn't really talking too much about Switch 2 hardware. I'll save that for a future upload. However, I do think shortly after the Direct, possibly even April 3rd, we'll probably get the rumored deluxe port of Kirby Planet Robobot. And then, closer to April 20th, which is the anniversary of Fire Emblem, I could see them doing some sort of a celebration for it. Maybe not a full Fire Emblem Direct, but, you know, the Fire Emblem 1 re-release could be showing up again in store shelves, similar to how they did it with the Super Mario 3D All-Stars. But the bigger deal, I really think the rumored Fire Emblem remake games are going to show up. I'm going to say April 17th, like just before the anniversary. And you know, I'd be happy with whatever they make. Big fan of Fire Emblem. I'm still planting my flag and saying it's going to be remakes of Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn. And yeah, Genealogy of the Holy War is going to show up eventually. I just think that's going to be a Switch 2 exclusive and be like a big, completely different remake. Meanwhile, the Radiant duology, it's going to be like upscaled HD, some quality of life. It's going to be great games, but not as big of a headline maker. May. Alright, so I'll just say it here. As of now, I think Switch 2 is coming out May 22nd. That's just the date that makes the most sense in my head. I think in the beginning of May, we're going to see a push mode collection for Switch 1. I think they're going to highlight it in early Switch 2 sales also, not for the main gameplay mode itself, but for the customizable levels. The mouse con editing is going to be critical for easier level editing and sharing. But yeah, a fun little puzzle game that anyone can enjoy. For those that are buying a Switch 2 and they see the little bonus improvements that might happen for playing it on Switch 2, I think releasing it a bit before the console is fair. Now, it's probably the biggest long shot in this entire video. I still think there's a shot that F-Zero is going to come out. It's going to be a remake of the GameCube game F-Zero GX with some AX elements in there, and it's going to be great on Switch 1, but look amazing on Switch 2. Now, I know know what you're thinking. That wouldn't work because Mario Kart is going to be a Switch 2 release date game. Well, I think it is going to be somewhat within the launch window. I don't think it's going to be a release date. I think it's going to be closer to like September or something like that. Happy to be wrong. Like I said, I know F-Zero is the longest of long shots at this stage for Switch 1, but if there ever was a time for a proper shot, I think right now the dominoes are all aligned. Those day one adopters of the Switch 2 that are hankering for that new racing game, they'll be able to pick up the F-Zero remasters and have the same experience to scratch that itch and possibly become new fans. And then on May 22nd itself, I think is going to be Metroid Prime 4. This game has been hyped to heaven amongst hardcore Nintendo fans. And yeah, it's not the biggest game to be a release date game. You know, it's not a Breath of the Wild. It's not a Mario 64. It still might have that same effect of just capturing the hype. And those that do want to buy the Switch 2 on day one, this is the perfect game to go along with it. But I think it's going to be a cross-gen game that those of us who want to play it on Switch 1 will still have it on Switch 1. May 22nd. June. Here's another kind of left field one. I think the new Pokemon Legends ZA game is actually going to be a June release. Not sure when. I just don't think it's a holiday title. I think it's something right in the middle, something that will still excite Switch 2 fans. I could even see them making a specific bundle for Switch 2 that's all Pokemon Legends theme, and like we said with the previous game, it will be available on Switch 1 as well as Switch 2. I also think somewhere in June is going to be a new Mario Sluggers game. Part of me thinks they might just save it and make it a Switch 2 exclusive, if not this year, next year. But if they are playing more of the safe route, and remember it is Mario's 40th anniversary, I think a new Mario sports game is due, and Sluggers just makes the most sense. I'm gonna call it Super Mario Sluggers Switch Hit. That's so dumb. July. All right, another out there one. I think we're going to get a new Tomodachi Life. I personally never really understood the appeal, but there's a huge fan base for this. It sold millions on the 3DS. I could also see Nintendo using it as an opportunity to push a new peripheral. You know, I think some form of Spot Pass is going to come back in the future of Nintendo. I don't think it's going to be tied exclusively to the Switch 2. Something about modern day privacy and security and people being able to know your location based on your device. I don't think Nintendo's going to want that to be built into the Switch 2, but more of something that people can elect to carry with them. So like picture a little peripheral that's just like size of a credit card, similar to all these tracking devices that you can buy these days. And it comes bundled in with your Tomodachi Life game. And then, you know, if it takes off, there could be future games or future bundles with this tracking card technology integrated in to be used as a modern form of Spot Pass, but that's really a whole new video. I think this is going to be the last major like Switch 1 exclusive game, you know, exclusive in parentheses because obviously you can play it in Switch 2. But yeah, kind of spoilers, all games from here are going to feel more like smaller projects or ports. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's rumors about a niche game that's getting like a new revival. I don't think there's going to be a port of Tomodachi Life. It's like a whole new game in the Tomodachi world. August. Luigi's Mansion 1. It's going to be a small release, and the bigger headline is going to be whatever's showing up on Switch 2 this month. But Luigi's Mansion 1, just to fill out the full trilogy, because I honestly think Luigi's Mansion 4 will be coming out in 2026. So I'm picturing they release the game now, you know, hopefully it's not a full $60. Hopefully there's some sort of bundle that you can buy all three games together for $100 or something along those lines. And really closer to the Halloween season is when we're going to see like all these bundles showing up, you know, advertising them all together, but available to the public in August. I'm assuming this port is going to be made by the same developers that did the Luigi's Mansion 2 port. Is not going to light the world on fire, but it's going to have its sales. September. This is when I'm predicting the new Mario Kart's coming out. To be fair, I also think this is when GTA 6 is coming out, so September is going to be an interesting month. The only thing Switch 1 related is it's possible Nintendo will re-release the Super Mario 35 concept, but call it Super Mario 40, and you know, maybe there could even be a mode that's 4D where you hop between art styles and go forward in time in terms of Mario platformers and backwards in times. Essentially the gimmick from Mario Maker, but used in real-time platforming. Would be interesting. October. Okay, so here's the surprise Pokemon game that I was talking about. I'm still holding on to this until I'm proven wrong. I think there's going to be another remake of the Johto games, and I straight up think it's going to be Heart Gold, Soul Silver Remastered. That's what they're calling it. Nothing fancy. It's not going to be made by Game Freak. It's going to be developed by third-party studios. Nintendo's been working with plenty of outside studios for their RPGs. I think it's going to be just basically 2D HD HD, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, couple of balancing fixes, couple of quality of life fixes, maybe some more robust online play for those that want to. I just think until this dream is officially dead, it just makes all the sense in the world to me. And then depending on the feedback from Heart Gold, Soul Silver Remastered, that might be how they influence the Black and White remasters. But that's for a future year. October is also the month that I think we're gonna see whatever that global test program game was. You know, there's ways to find out what it is, but nothing that Nintendo won't strike down, so I'm not gonna go too much into it. I think we're gonna see the final form of it in October. And it's going to be an online-only game, maybe only for NSO Expansion Pass members. October makes the most sense. That's usually when they do the big deals for NSO Expansion Pass. November. Another out there one. We got a Kirby remaster earlier in the year, back in April. I think there's going to be a second Kirby game. You know, we've seen this in the past where they released two Kirby games relatively close together. I think this is going to be a remaster of Kirby and the Rainbow Curse, the Wii U game now remastered for Switch. But once again, it will be marketed that you can play it on Switch, touchscreen only, or using joystick controls and not so ideal, or play it on Switch 2 and you can have the mouse cons to control your road, or I'm predicting dual screen play with Switch 2. So it will be a game that runs perfectly fine on Switch 1, but also a great gimmick game for Switch 2. But to be fair, I think the big selling game is going to be the new 3D Marios coming out in November, but who knows? December. Nintendo doesn't usually release any new games in December, and I think this year, as packed as it was, is not going to be any exception. I do think we're going to get some new software, but it might show up more as a game that can connect to the Nintendo Music app. I'm picturing some sort of a rhythm game that you can import your own songs, so be it that they're on the Nintendo Music app. And this might be Rhythm Heaven, but I honestly think they're going to save that till 26. You know, give the Rift of the Necrodancer its room to breathe. I think Nintendo is very close with that indie studio right now. So what I'm imagining is that the December game is going to be kind of a spiritual successor of sorts to the Elite Beat Agent franchise, or, you know, the Osu games. So it's going to be a Nintendo officially licensed Osu game that you can play on your phone or cross progression on your Switch and Switch 2. They might not make this a big deal in retailers, but this is going to be a big deal for mobile audiences. And once again, connect it with your Nintendo Music app and your song library is all of a sudden way bigger than it was originally. Okay, so we said 12 months. Now we're in January 2026. And I'm just going to put a safe one. I think here's where we're going to get the Wario Land Shake It remaster. I imagine it coming bundled in with the reimagining of the Wario Land from Virtual Boy, you know, now fully in color and widescreen and everything like that. It's possible that in January or February we'll also see that game I discussed on a Talking Socks video where it's Pokemon Conquest with the Fire Emblem Lords. I know that's crazy and probably way out there. It's just something that I can imagine, and it makes sense as like a experimental release, and that would be the perfect time to release it, that it's like right before the big Pokemon anniversary happens and like right as the Fire Emblem anniversary is ending. So if it were to happen, that's the time. And just to be safe, February 2026, Wind Waker HD. I've talked about this in the past. I think they're going to redo the Tingle Bottles function and make it a lot more of a social media adjacent game, similar to Elden Ring, but those will be functions that the player can opt out of if they don't want to. At the end of the day, it's still an amazing game that will get a re-release finally after years and years of fans talking about it. So yeah, those are my predictions. This is recorded late January 2025, so things might be completely different, but I'm curious to see how close I am. If I'm not right on the month, at least like the titles that came out. Some of them I feel like are safer than you might imagine, but what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you think these are crazy, way out there, never gonna happen? Do you think Nintendo might have a little bit of Switch 1 support, but not nearly as much as I was saying? Or can you see this being feasible? You know, usually Nintendo only releases one game per month, and in my prediction list, I kind of have two, because they're, at least for this year and probably next year, they're going to be kind of running both the Switch 1 and Switch 2 at the same time. It's out there, it's overly optimistic, who knows? But that's the fun in making these videos. So I hope you enjoyed, and please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps in the algorithm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. If you guys can help me out, I would be forever grateful. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.